President Biden is in Mexico City this morning, where he will attend the North American Leaders Summit with the Canadian Prime Minister and the Mexican President. The Biden administration announced just last week that it's making a major shift in border security policy. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a fierce critic of the president's immigration policy, greeted the president yesterday. Abbott then handed him a letter with several demands, including prosecuting people who cross the border illegally and starting to build the border wall again. The president visited the U.S. Mexico border yesterday for the very first time since taking office, and CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang is traveling with the president in Mexico City.
President Biden met with workers at a Center for Migrant Services Sunday, who told him they need more aid from the federal government.
They need a lot of resources, and we're going to get them for them.
Earlier, Republican Governor Greg Abbott welcomed the president to Texas, then criticized him for not coming sooner.
It just so happens he's 2 years and about $20 billion too late.
Abbott said as much in a letter he handed the president on the tarmac.
Here's the deal. He's never called me to talk to me about the immigration issue. Now I provided him a letter that provides tangible, concrete solutions that will stop illegal immigration.
Also in the letter, Abbott blamed Mr. Biden. This chaos is the direct result of your failure to enforce the immigration laws that Congress enacted. Last week, President Biden announced new restrictions on migrants seeking asylum amid growing pressure from both Republicans and Democrats. The new policies expand the Trump-era COVID ban known as Title 42, although the administration will also offer more legal pathways for migrants from Haiti, Nicaragua, and Cuba.
People are not processed, so they just here and they don't know what the options are, or they don't have any options.
At Sacred Heart Catholic Church, hundreds of migrants sought help, like this mother and her 5-year-old son from El Salvador. She begged President Biden for an opportunity to work in the U.S. And she said it's not easy, but knows it's not impossible.
So I want to bring in Weijia now to talk a little bit more about this. She's covering the president's trip in Mexico City. So Weijia, we mentioned that President Biden is in Mexico City meeting with the Mexican president and the Canadian prime minister as part of the North American Leaders Summit. But what are they expected to discuss here over the next couple of days?
Well, certainly immigration will be one topic, but perhaps not as prominent as you might think, because remember, just last week, President Biden delivered a lengthy speech when he announced those new policies with regard to migrants coming from the southern border. But there are many, many other things that these three leaders want to talk about and will talk about, including manufacturing, trade, economic competitiveness, climate change. And really, as with President Biden, as we see for many things that he talks about when it comes to foreign policy, I really expect they will talk about China and sort of how they can realign North America to be more competitive. I think that the conversation about semiconductors will come up. As you know, the government recently passed a law that allows the U.S. to focus a lot more on building those semiconductors in the U.S. Mexico wants a piece of that. And so there's a lot of different topics that these three leaders will address, even though you're right, migration will certainly come up as well.
So let's talk about the immigration issue, though. The president visited the border for the first time since he has become president. And of course, Republicans were very critical when this trip was announced, critical about the timing. The flow of migrants has actually sort of subsided a little bit compared to what was happening several weeks ago. Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez of Texas joined Face the Nation yesterday and talked about Biden's trip. This is what he had to say.
The administration just has turned a blind eye, and it goes to show they think that their policy is correct, and it's dangerous. It should scare the hell out of every American out there to say this administration is going to double down, and it's going to taint the Biden administration. It's going to taint Biden's legacy.
So how is the White House responding to this criticism? I mean, the policy shift is actually, I think, pretty significant. Are we hearing anything from the White House about this?
Well, the White House is very quick to point out that they inherited a broken system from the Trump administration. And so it was difficult for them from the beginning to try to piece something back together and have opportunities for people who are really seeking asylum. They also say that, you know, there's only so much that the president can do through executive action. And what he has been pushing for since before he even took office was for, you know, immigration reform on Capitol Hill, which Anne Marie, you and I both know, we both watched, you know, what unfolded on the Hill just with the Republican Party alone. We know how polarized it is right now, and it's really unlikely that they're going to be able to pass any sweeping immigration reform. And so the president is quick also to point out that, you know, he is willing to compromise. He wants to strike some sort of a deal, but he says lawmakers have to meet him there as well. And, you know, it's not just Republicans who are criticizing President Biden. He's also getting hammered from some Democrats who say that, you know, these new policies are cruel, they're inhumane, and they will end up turning away, you know, thousands of people who really need help. And so he is getting criticism from all sides, but this has been a tricky issue for decades. So this is not something that is new necessarily to President Biden, who, of course, was a senator himself trying to figure this out before he became president.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because, yeah, no administration has figured out a clear way to overhaul the immigration system and keep everyone happy. Weijia, thank you very much.
Thanks.